Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with another amazing woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, thank you so much, Gertrude, to have me. I'm Genevieve Leveille, and I am the CEO and founder of AgriLedger. About me, I am originally from Haiti. So for those of you who don't know about Haiti, unfortunately, I'm sure these days we all know about Haiti. So much has happened there. We were the first nation to gain, first Black nation to gain its independence through force in 1804. So that kind of defines, in a way, my journey and how I've actually traversed to the world. As you can see, the hair has gone. To tell the truth, though, I was born apparently with about 9 of them. So the gray was always going to come through. My story. So as I said, I was born in Haiti, and I lived in Haiti till about the age of 13. And then I moved to the US. The reason I haven't said much about where I'm based, because I think I'm a global citizen. Sometimes I like to say I'm a glomad. I'm not a nomad. I'm a glomad. I've been staying in New York City area in a place called Nyack with my mother. While I've been every 2 months, I go on a jaunt across the world and then come back and sort of relax. In terms of my story, I grew up, I'd say, probably very sheltered until the age of probably 13 when I first came to the US. Having been born and brought up in Haiti, that meant I was in a somewhat homogenous society, because Haiti is very interesting. It doesn't really matter what color your skin is. We all say, so one of the thing about the Haitian constitution, it says that we're all nègre, which is Black in French, and that anyone which is not, anyone who's Haiti, no matter the color of your skin, is Black in a way. So it's not a state of skin as a state of mind. So since this is a diversity sort of thing, I think that it actually shaped my being, in that I never understood, or let's say validated, any obstacles that might be put in my way, if we say in a way. And also I was one of those precocious children who started talking way too early. So my parents were like, need to be done. So let's imagine nearly 60 years ago, a 2-year-old being sent to school early. And then by the age of 3, I had Saturdays and Sundays filled with dance lesson, both folkloric and classical, and piano lesson, piano learning. And in reality, also another thing that my parents did was that At the time, you had, that was pre-Amazon. You had to order books, and they ordered books from France for me. And it was actually the way that they punished me when I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I didn't get my book. So I never really understood limitation, which also led me to when I moved to the US. It was okay, you do what you want to do, you do what you need to do. And when I got to the US, I was about 13. So technically, I was supposed to be, by my schooling, heading to college. The the government in the US and the school said there's no way that child is going to college at this point, because I don't really believe that I'm genius in any way, because there are some kids who do go at 13, but I wasn't that smart. It was just good enough. And so I spent my years really through the 4 years of high school doing what I was doing already, which was music, but also taking all the courses that I could. And unfortunately, when I graduated at the age of 15, so you have to understand, I got in at 12, just turned 13. So graduated, I was 15. I wanted to go to University of, it was to Pennsylvania University. And my family said, no way. And this is like the typical immigrant. No way, because girls who go to campus come back either with a drug problem or pregnant. I didn't get to go, but my sister did. But in ways that shaped my ability to move. So I went to Queens College because I was so mad. I'm like, I'm not applying for anything. And at the end of September, I had to go to school. So I went to Queens College, didn't like it, and then ended up going at Columbia. And there I really had a great time because I got to do sciences, which I love. I really love bio. So I have a degree in biochemistry, spent a lot of time in the science, but it was boring because I only had a midterm and a final. And I was like slogging the rest of the time. And I was like, okay, what am I doing exactly? So I did comparative literature. And there I looked at Freudian and 20th century literature. So I really got to escape. And I think Columbia was so great because it gave me the opportunity to understand culture, but not only understand it, but be able to state an opinion. And I know this is a long story, but that has actually brought me into my how my life in terms of work, my work life has been. So that took me into working into healthcare, where I worked on Taxol, which was I worked at Sloan Kettering, which was one of the largest cancer research center, and there I spent time working on early computers, really looking at imaging and everything else. So really cutting edge technology. And if you can imagine, this is into 1990s, really at the beginning. This is at the time that the Clinton just came in, so 1991, 1992. I then decided when healthcare started being the thing that it was time to move. And this is one of the things that I think has been my saving grace, in that I'm happy to move to move on. If I think it's done, time to go find something else. So that led me to work for MTV Network, where I actually was in Radio City when Michael Jackson announced about how he had married the Presley daughter, and the kiss that basically shook the world. I was in the second row for that. And those are great memories that I've had, and really being able to understand different things. And I then decided it was time, because I really didn't like the entertainment, to look at more structured business, which led me into banking. And there it was my love, because I was working with large corporate, which meant I had what's it called? Had an expense account. I was traveling 4 or 5 days out of the week, going all over the US, and at some point going in Europe and staying in some of the best hotels, because we had to be safe, and working with those clients in implementing the technical system. That led me to work with, I at one point that was around year 2000, so everybody was scared about the computers breaking down. At the time, I was working for Chase Manhattan Bank, and they sent me to Hewlett Packard in California. It was 2000. It was freezing in New York. It was horrible with the snowstorm. And now I end up in California where I ditched all my shoes and I was in flip flop. And at the time, this was like, you can imagine startup culture, come as you are, dress as you are. People actually came in with their PJs. Fast forward, that led me to working again in Europe. And I have to say, Chase, after Chase in 1995, I never applied for another job. It's just people calling me and say, "Hey, I think this you'd be good for this," which is making me a little scared because I don't know if I know how to apply for jobs anymore because I didn't apply. I can't say I ever applied. But that led me to the journey, and I really started to understand. So I went to work for GE, and I really got to understand that in reality, what I was doing throughout those years was being an entrepreneur. The fundamental difference is at the time, the idea of a entrepreneur. So I was the entra. The entrepreneur is you're doing it outside and you're getting the funding. I used to get the funding from the company. I'd make sure that my budget was ring fence. I would be to my boss, "You want me to do this? This is how much I need." So I was known as a person who would bring in consultant to do things and actually deliver. And that is what has led me really to form AgriLedger. So part of the journey is I went to the UK, I worked for RBS, and then someone called me and said, "Could you come in for identity management?" That led to blockchain. And one of the big questions throughout the years I was trying to solve is how do you do on behalf? How do you take a payment for someone and you write the information in a way that you can trust? And someone introduced to me blockchain technology. And I wasn't one of those people who got into the Bitcoin. I wish, mostly after today, what's happening, that thing is going to go way up. I could have, may have made a lot of money. But what I think I did is I gained much more insight into the power of trust, because trust is something that I don't want to say we've lost, but when we used to be small community and our world was maybe at most 10 miles away from us, we had control. And when we look in agriculture, we see that this is where something is broken. Why is that? It's because people don't trust that the information that they need is going to be brought back to them. And that is really what I'm trying to create and restructure in a way roles so that we can have the right trust factors in there again.
Wow. What a fascinating life you have had. You know, listening to you speak and just discovering what you are actually doing now. You've had a wide range of experiences. How is it possible for you to intersect all of your life experiences in the different sectors with what you're doing in agriculture now?
It's because so I'm a foodie. I love food. There's very
Okay.
little food that I haven't seen. And I've, beside being a foodie, I've had the challenge of being hungry. Because when you travel, sometime you may have to leave your house at 5 o'clock in the morning, which means you didn't have time, didn't have the gumption to eat. You get on the plane, something's wrong with the plane, they don't serve food.
Yeah.
Or nowadays, they don't serve food. You arrive, your plane was late, you don't have time to get the next thing. You reach where you're finally supposed to 5 hours later, and there's no food.
That
Uh,
is so true.
and that's okay because at least tomorrow you'll have food. But I grew up in Haiti, so I've seen what abject poverty can be like and people not being able to eat. So I can relate, however, in the discomfort that can happen from that. But
Yeah.
another discomfort, which is even worse, is food poisoning. I have been unlucky to have actually had it 3 times. And
Oh,
when we think about food and health, um, in many places in the greater South, children, So the statistics are pretty bad. 1 in 10 person globally gets sick. That's about
Yes.
6 million people a year getting sick. 600,000 people are dying from food poisoning on a yearly basis, and 40% of that are children under the age of 5. So let's not even think about the loss of the child, but let's talk about the loss of human, um,
Lives.
not so much like the opportunity for work that is being lost. So that those are very big issues, and we in ways, I've been talking about this for the last 7 years, but it came in very much into play with the pandemic. We
Right.
started realizing that, we in the greater north, our food doesn't come from next door.
Yes.
We don't have the capacity to grow it. And food, you know, salmonella, E. coli are reality of
Mm,
things. Very rare for us, and we have the medicine to fix it, but in many of those countries they do not have that. And I was actually talking to my colleague not long ago, and he was telling me that one of the issues that's coming back in India has to do with uh, the meat access. So there's been a lot of closure of abattoirs. So the
right.
same thing that he said is when the English came in, they brought in the abattoir. The
Yes.
challenge was that the Dalits, which are the lower caste, used to get very sick and are considered the unclean because they would get the dead animal. And when you have a dead animal, if the animal is dead, it has issue. Versus an abattoir, you're
Yes.
making sure that the animal is fine.
Fresh. Yeah.
It's fresh. So, but this is a problem world over. So if people are not getting food which is sane, they're not going to have the best. Not only so it may not kill you, but it
Yeah.
makes
But
you work properly.
not the best experience at
So,
all.
so we really need to think, and I know that the agenda here sometimes is about diversity. We need to think about diversity and really think about when we talk about greater north and greater south,
Mm-hmm.
what is a diversity challenge there? Unfortunately, the greater south is usually people of color.
Yeah. That
And
is
I
so
think
funny.
I think they're, I I love to travel in Africa. The
Mm-hmm.
reason is it's homogenous. You're not um you're not judged when you walk in
Mm-hmm.
on the color of your skin. You might
That
be
is.
judged on the way you dress, but
Yeah.
and there's that whole saying, never judge the book by its cover.
Cover. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's so
that
true.
makes it easier. So it's a different playing field. The challenge that we have in the greater north is assumption as you walk in of who and what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you come in? What is your experience?
Yeah.
Challenge. But I also turn it around sometimes to say we need to see that as the challenge is not ours. The challenge is theirs for not understanding the different factors of what it is like. It's not because I come from Haiti that I come from poverty.
Yeah.
Haiti has poverty. But I'm like, what they go on? I'm like, let's just go around the corner from where you are. And
You'll find poverty. Yeah. It's everywhere.
it's everywhere. It's
Yes.
opportunities. So
Mm,
what I think is important, of late there's been a big light being shined on Africa, and another light is kind of getting shined on Latin America and the Caribbean.
yes.
Reason for that is I think technology is giving people the opportunity for self sovereignty. And also, one of the things that we were able to achieve during COVID is to say you don't need to be in San Francisco or New York to
Mm,
be successful.
no. You can be successful wherever you are. I would love to go back to the topic of agriculture because for me, it's all about food security, especially in marginalized communities. So, can you describe how AgriLedger is transforming the agricultural sector and what inspired you to focus on this area?
So, first reason was because I was like, I need to do something that I am passionate about.
Yes.
And I'm passionate about food. There's very little food I haven't met that I wanted to try. I even did the caterpillar, and I was like, no, thank you very much. But you know, I did them in China, and I did them in DRC.
Okay.
Not my cup of tea, but hey, to each his own. Um, what it was is I've actually found that it's in the blood, because even though I didn't do agriculture is in the blood. So about six of my cousins are agronomists,
Okay.
and my uncle actually was a Fulbright in the 40s in agronomist, and he was the minister of agriculture of Haiti twice, and
Okay.
he has been basically. It was very funny. So when I started my journey in blockchain, at the same time, Timberland was talking about doing a blockchain, which they didn't do, in Haiti in cotton. And he was the poster child because he's considered the grandfather of the cotton industry of Haiti because he saved it from extension.
Wow.
So people were like, isn't that your last name? I'm like, yeah, that's my uncle.
I
but,
love it.
but
So how do distributed ledger technologies like blockchain impact the agricultural supply chain, and what benefits do they bring to farmers and consumers?
so it's called, I don't like to use the term supply. I like to call value. It's
Okay.
value exchange, value tracking. So what we do is we work. It's not. So this is why I say it's using what I've done in the past. It's about financial. At the end of the day, what was most people don't realize is nothing in the bank happens unless there is a, you know, you owe money,
Mm-hmm.
have an account, a debit happens to debit for that amount. So it's basically based on a sort of contract. What
Okay.
happens is that, as I talked about, the distances have grown.
Yeah.
You're sending something across the world, let's say to me, you'll
Mm-hmm.
trust giving it to the post office. But if you had to give it to somebody who's got to give it to somebody who has to give it to somebody to get to me,
Mm.
you wonder, will it get lost in
Yeah.
between?
Yeah.
So if that has a value, you probably would instead at the first person, or you might have an agreement with the first person that the second person will actually pay, and then you'll get that money at that
Yes.
second. But you're not going to wait for me to get it because you don't have also any control in me
Yeah.
receiving.
Yeah. That's so
So,
true.
so what we do is we evidence what the farmer has bought in, but
Mm-hmm.
then we also change it to where he does not change ownership. He still continues to have the certification of ownership, and those
Right.
people in between now are providing services. So think of it like Uber. It used to be you
Yes.
had to get out outside, try and hail a cab, and then hope that it wasn't raining, it wasn't too cold, and eventually you got in the cab. Now,
Yes.
something like Uber, you get on the app and the system sends somebody to come and pick you up. You bring what you in, payment is done. You don't even have to try to exchange cash because, as we know, that happens in Africa or in India.
Yes.
The price will change by the time you get where you're going.
That is so true.
So
Yeah.
things like that make sure that the price is not changing. Also,
Okay.
gives clarity to them as to what is happening. It also gives us as a customer certitude of where did it come from. So I didn't
Yes.
want to sort of make it where it, because when I was thinking about that, I said, if I'm going into a supermarket and there's three apples, one says Fuji, another one says Washington, and one says local. I'm not going to choose Fuji because Fuji can prove it's from Fuji.
Right.
I might, because of what I have in my pocket, take the local one because that's all I can afford. But
Okay.
if I can afford the expensive one, I want to
Mm-hmm.
know it's coming from Fuji.
Right. Right.
And unfortunately, food fraud is a big reality of life. Uh,
Okay.
oh yeah, this is over $1 trillion problem. Food
Wow.
coming from places that it's not supposed to, food being delivered not having met the requirement that it is. There is the
Okay.
documentation is all paper. So how do you get the paper to be able to actually check? So there is a lot of cost which goes into this whole aspect, but the
Mm-hmm.
cost is also human in
Yes.
form of the food security. And the
Right.
other challenge that people don't realize is that food actually is responsible for 25% of the green gas emission.
Yeah.
Is twice the amount of all travel and freight and all of that, all transportation.
Jeez.
Why is that?
So
It's
crazy.
waste. Food not getting where it's
It
supposed to,
has to go.
not reaching. And I'd like to say that the food waste that we see is not what we do. The big
Right.
we're probably responsible for about 5%.
Okay.
The
Okay.
whole thing is what's getting lost along the value chain. So
Right.
now, if you could start, and that's also ruining our planet. So if
Yeah.
we could
Yeah.
actually balance those things out, reduce the green gas emission, make
Yeah.
sure that our farmers are properly uh,
Compensated.
compensated, then
Yes.
now what happens is that obviously you have to change in between. It used to
Mm-hmm.
be everyone wanted to be a taxi driver. They
Mm.
realized, you know what, I'm better off being a Uber driver. Somebody
Yes.
gets in my cab, does something stupid, Uber will take care of it. I don't
Yes.
want to drive right now, I don't drive. I'm
Yeah.
available, I listen to the application. And that's
Mm.
the same thing that we need to change. And
Okay.
because we're working in environments which may not be as digitally advanced,
Yes.
there is, however, an opportunity. The greatest South is going to be responsible for the greater number of individual youth. How,
Okay.
and unless we can create, so reality is smallholder farmers feed the world,
Mm-hmm.
not only locally, but
Globally.
globally.
Yeah.
If we're starting to use technology or if we want efficiency, we have to invest in infrastructure and
Yeah.
to change roles. So for
Okay.
me, there's actually a video of me talking about AI from 3 years ago. I'm like, not a big deal. Bring it on because it's going to be more jobs. And
Yes.
that's the way I feel about it. But
You feel
what we
so
have to do
scared.
is we have to retrain people. We have
Mm-hmm.
to give them an opportunity. And we have to think of this new paradigm very much like when we first got computers.
Yes.
There was 10 people in the office. Something wasn't going, you'd call and say, "Can you come and help me?" And somebody was in your desk in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you have to pick up the phone or you have to go online, put a ticket, and somebody, or you figure out yourself. There's enough
Yes.
information to figure out yourself. I think that's the journey that we're going to see
Okay.
eventually.
So let's talk a little bit about finance. With your experience in financial inclusion for Africa, how do you see financial technologies reshaping the agricultural landscape in developing countries?
Absolutely. This is actually the key to my
Mm.
application. It is not about the track and trace. The track and trace gives you
Yes.
data, which then remove the opacity, so you can understand clearly what are the volumes that are going to be possible, and
Right.
that's what capital market look for. So if we look at agriculture, there seems to be, I won't say there seems to be a boom.
Right.
It is very targeted. So some of the things I'm
Okay.
learning is like essential oils, so plant oils, which are now going to be used as secondary for decarbonization. So the airlines have been talking about using sort of seed flax oil as part of the oil substitute. So instead of using peanut oil, they will use the seed flax, which is mostly grows and does nothing. So now you're seeing investment going in, but it's not investment really in food. For me,
Right.
I think there needs to be investment in food. People need to be able to feed themselves. So I'm not a proponent of uh, forests. Yes, I don't want to see deforestation.
Yes.
So we shouldn't be cutting down the trees. We should
Mm,
be looking at ways that people can basically use other form, but we also need to increase their income. You
yeah.
can't ask people to behave in a certain way if you're not enabling them. So I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of opportunity in the agricultural world, and mostly as we're asking farmers to do something. So like, let's say it's almost like we're asking every farmer to become organic.
Yes.
L- Less water, using biochar, using biodiversity,
Yeah.
not having monoculture. So if you're asking somebody to change, no one will change unless there's a benefit to that change. And how do we
Mhm.
measure benefit? Is a happier life. I'm getting
Yeah.
more money. I'm much more comfortable. And
Yes.
I think that there's a mistake in thinking that everybody wants to be rich. No,
Yeah.
everyone wants to be comfortable. Everyone wants to not have to worry about where am I going to find those pennies tomorrow
Mhm.
for the changes that I want to do. Once
So
you,
that leads me to my next question about sustainable farming practices, right?
Mhm.
How does AgriLedger promote sustainable farming practices and help in combating issues such as climate change and food scarcity?
by working first with evidencing that they are doing the right thing, and
Hmm.
through that, uh, really making sure that their product has more value.
Okay.
Because the studies have been done that by being a mostly with millennial, they're very interested in understanding where is their food coming from and what
Yeah.
is the impact that it's having. So if
Yeah.
you can do that, you can actually get to a premium product. But
Okay.
without even doing that, you don't. The Haiti project wasn't about showing, it was more about removing unnecessary intermediaries. So the person
Okay.
who doesn't need to be in between, is
Yes.
adding no value but value in their pocket, is not
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
When we
Oh,
did that, it went from 90 cents for a dozen, oh, well, dozen of 14, to $7.50 for that
that's
dozen. It
crazy.
made a 750% increase in the income of the farmer without saying anything.
Just cutting out the middleman. So
Cutting
what are some
out
of the what
unnecessary. Let's not, I like to say, because the middlemen, we shouldn't vilify them. They are the only one right now providing the liquidity and the risk and the credit. So this
Mhm.
is about de-risking and making sure that everyone adds value.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were
So
going to
what
say,
are some of the most exciting innovations that you've seen or implemented in the field of agricultural technology?
I mean, there's so much technology, but I don't think that for me, technology is also how you do things.
Hmm.
How do you change how people do things, and how do you create efficiency? So, in
Right.
terms of what we've done, because we've been working in Haiti or Tanzania, places which are very poor
Hmm.
in, in access to technology, we have
Right.
adopted the technology. It is very important to think that you actually do not need to have you don't need to have
Mm.
software for you to be able to see what your bank account has. The bank
Right.
is serving you.
Yeah.
How you get to it could be very different.
Okay.
So identifying people, which I think is very key, because through identity you create financial access.
Mm-hmm.
You can then get them the access. And I'm very much about teaching people how to work and learn how to fish rather
Yeah.
than giving them. So
Yeah.
it's a long road. It's something that's going to take time. I'm happy to say that 7 years later, people are starting to talk the same way as I am. I've gone for the last 2 years to the what's it called to COP, and the
Right.
message is very clear. And for those who don't know, that's the parties, the countries coming together to talk about um, climate and really the
Okay.
climate change. And
Yes.
what there's a clear understanding that agriculture is key. No longer just about let's restore forests, but what do we need to do in agriculture? But I think it's still not trickling down enough of how do we need to compensate farmers for climate change or
Okay.
allow them to be successful. Because I don't I as I mentioned before, I'm a biochemist. I don't believe in things in a petri dish. I don't want to eat that. I want to eat my natural food. I want,
Yes.
if we were meant to eat processed,
Synthesized foods. Yes.
it's not to say I don't want a cookie here and there, but I don't really want to be everything is a cookie. And that's my concern as a biochemist. When is
Mhm.
it going to make me sick? And
Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't need. And then the final thing that I like to say is we forget the farmer is the sequential entrepreneur,
Yes.
the businessman or businesswoman. She has to seed, she has to grow, and she has to harvest,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is seed, growth, and exit. So we have a lot to learn, and it's someone who is dealing with all kinds of pressure, everything from the weather to not getting what's expected and then having clients buy what they need.
They produce. Now I've got two more questions to ask because we're running out of time.
Yes.
Um, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are interested in entering the agricultural technology space?
I think that you need, so for me, I like to say that I'm providing services to the
Mhm.
agricultural space through the track and trace and transparency. I can
Right.
then provide access to finance, but
Okay.
it's also access to information that can be used. So it's really finding what you're doing, but I think we also need to be looking at 360 solutions. Many a
Mm-hmm.
time we come in and we say, okay, I'm going to fix that. And the other thing, which is very, very important, which I think sometimes we don't do enough of,
Mm-hmm.
is speaking to the recipients. We tend to have, you know, unfortunately, nowadays, as I mentioned, the bottom 40% of society in terms of poverty tends to be smallholder farmers. Obviously, you got the big farmers, the big rich, they have no problem.
Yeah.
But the ones who are poor means that if you're poor, you have lack of access to certain services like
Yes.
education. But that doesn't mean somebody, I kind of say, somebody not having gone to school to learn how to read and write doesn't make them stupid,
No.
doesn't then
No.
make them not be able to comprehend things or to be able to recognize the difference between a one and a two and a three.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the
So
basic.
you shouldn't treat people, and this goes back to the don't judge the book by its cover.
Mm-hmm.
Don't treat people as though they don't matter. So very much like in the past where we've had issues where people get come in, they build a well. So what we do a lot in the greater north, because we have the access to money, we
Mm-hmm.
go in and we say, oh, we're going to build you this. Well, we
Mm.
forget to ask them, where do you need it? Where do
Yeah.
you go? And teach them how to fix it. So
Yes.
part of what you have to do is it's almost like creating community,
Mm-hmm.
but in a different way of community. If you treat your constituents or the recipient of your, learn it, I don't think we do enough nowadays of asking. We assume.
Yeah, people
I'm
make
bringing,
assumptions.
I'm
We just
bringing
make
technology to you. I know better. That technology is going to fix everything for you, and it's going to make your eggs and fry them. Oh, you don't have fire noise. Yeah. So in terms of encouraging more women, I think it's really, some of it is, and this is where for me I see it as a duty to be front and center. I don't really want, sometimes I really am much more happy tinkering. I'd be happier tinkering and building.
right.
But we have to show by example. I like
Yes.
to say
Because
that young black men in the US now think that they too one day can be president because they saw Obama.
yes.
And that's by leading by example. And I
Mm,
think that it's also what it's okay to do is to ask questions and to learn and to, you know, I say today we're so much luckier than we were 30 years ago when I started my career. Finding
right.
information is at the touch of a button. And now you
Yeah.
can get even lazier with ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, go find me this information, and it'll give you more than you really need.
Yeah.
So it's really finding your niche. And the reality, I think it's a great place to be in agriculture because
Mm,
we all have to eat. So there is always going to be, and
need for
hopefully
food.
it will become sexy again beyond being a
Yes.
chocolate company. You know,
Mm,
obviously people working in food in those levels are revere. But
yes.
I think that there's opportunity in continuing and being able to safeguard the life of millions, because if we don't have food, we are, and we have famine, people are going to die.
That's
So
so.
one of the parts about agriculture that I will say, it's a very varied and very convoluted. So as women, actually, we have a great role to play
Mm-hmm.
because we can manage the collaboration and the different um, relationship, and really talking to everyone and turning around and really being empathetic to each person to create the synergies which are needed. And I have to
Yes.
say, I'm also very biased because guess what? In Haiti, we don't have middlemen, we have middle women, and they're called Madame Sarah. And the
Oh,
Madame Sarah have been known to, so basically they are the one brokering, buying, selling. But the best
okay.
thing about it is their children are some of the best educated children in the world.
Because of that, I love it.
No, they send them to school.
Yeah. Thank
So
you so
not,
much. This has been
it's,
a very fascinating interview, discussion, talking about agriculture, technology. Your breadth of knowledge is so, so refreshing. And I can see that you and I were connected for another reason. There's going to be a lot that I want to talk to you about my projects in Zimbabwe and the women that I'm trying to empower there as well. Thank you so much for coming online today.
you're welcome.
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. The Diversity Connector is bringing you people from all walks of life with inspiring ideas, knowledge, and skills. Tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. That's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open,